Hi there, welcome. If you're new to this channel, my name is Trish. Please take a minute, like, subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell for all future uploads. Guess what? Today I'm doing a free giveaway, a 1-hour session with me, a free Photoshop tutorial session. So if you're interested, please subscribe and leave a comment in this video. And at the end of the week, I'm going to do a draw and the winner will have a one-on-one session with moi. So if you are excited about today's tutorial, just sit tight and enjoy as I take you through another exciting session of our Photoshop series. Now, in this lesson, I'm going to talk only about font. So with everything that is happening around us in the world, I wanted to use some keywords that I have seen flow through social media lately. So the first font style I want to show you is the image text. So basically how you can infuse an image to a text. So I'm going to pick my text tool and I'm going to turn my foreground to black and I'm going to type in the word. I'm going to highlight and I'm going to change the font style. And I'm going to rescale. I'm going to move it up. And then I'm going to increase the size of this font along this alphabet. Then I'm going to set it somewhere here. Now you want to bring in your image. So I'm going to go to my working file and I'm going to bring in this image and I'm going to scale it. I'm going to double click to deselect. You want to make sure your image is above your text. Now, to make sure I have my image in the correct position, I'm going to decrease opacity so I can see where my image is set. I'm going to increase the opacity. Once you have your image on top of your text, is to hold down your Alt and then clip your image to your text. You see a little icon that shows up. So you click on that and it clips your image to your font. I can actually increase the richness by increasing the hue. I'm going to click OK. And then I want to turn this image into a statement. And I'm going to move that and set it right there. So the next font style that I want to show you is the neon or the glow font. So I'm going to go to my folder and I'm going to bring in a background image. And I'm going to take my text tool. I'm going to change my font to like a pinkish color. And I'm going to type in neon. And I'm just going to rescale, make it big, a little bit smaller. And I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to double click. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to bring that beneath my text. And I'm going to pick my rectangular marquee. I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to fill that in with the same color. And I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect. And then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'm going to keep it around this radius. I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to change the blend mode. I'm just going to play around with it till I get what I want. I like the soft light. And I'm now going to click on my text, right click, go to blending options, and we're going to add an inner glow. And I'm going to double click on that. And you can see that my blend mode is on linear light. You can reduce your opacity a little if you want. And then you can see I've increased my size just a little. And I'm going to add a drop shadow so I have this nice effect. and you can play around with your drop shadow. You can also decrease the opacity so it's not so strong. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to zoom out. And there we go. So this is a very simple way of creating a neon light. I'm going to go ahead and show you the next font style. And this is going to be the slicing font style. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to create a new canvas. I'm going to fill that with a white, and I'm going to type in the word black, and I'm going to select, and then I'm going to change the font style to that, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to rescale like that. Going to double click to deselect. Now, to make this a slicing text, there are a couple of ways of doing it. So what I want to show you is you want to make a duplicate of this, and the top layer, or no, the bottom layer, we're going to highlight, and I'm going to change the color to red, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to right click and convert to Smart Object. And as you can see, now the text is not editable, but I can use my marquee tool and I can draw a diagonal around my text. So basically I'm cutting my text in two. I'm going to right click, and then you want to make sure you're on the right layer, right click, and then choose copy. And I'm going to turn off this layer. So as you can see, I have two different texts. I can move this text this way. So if you actually want a split between the two texts, I'm going to turn off the top text and show you. So you click on the lower text, you right click, and you want to convert it to a smart object. Now you can take your diagonal. I'm going to turn this on so it gives me a guide, and I'm just going to create a split between my text. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to click and say make a copy. So I'm going to turn off the lower layer, and as you can see, it creates a split for me. If I want to add a shadow, I can click on, let's say, the top layer, right click, go to blending options, and I can actually add a drop shadow. I can double click inside and reduce the shadow effect. And I can click OK. So you can see that there's a little shadow effect that has been created on this. So you have this technique, and you also have this technique that you can use. This really looks nice. So this is what we call the slicing text effect. So the next text that I want to show you, which I've already done a tutorial on, is the long shadow effect. So I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to name, and I'm going to fill this in with a white, and then I'm going to take my text and I'm going to type in the word speak, and I'm going to use my move tool, set it in the middle. I'm going to double click, and then what I'm going to do with this text is that I'm going to create a duplicate. And then I'm going to turn off the top layer. I'm going to click on the lower text, and I'm going to go to 3D and then choose extrude, new 3D. And then when this window pops up, you want to choose no when it asks you, are you about to create a 3D layer? So we click on no, and then you see that a top window pops up, which is your plan. But you also want to see your property. And my property is not showing up. So this little icon is what you click on to have your property. If you don't see your property, just go under Windows and you will see it right there. And you just have to click on that. So under property, I'm going to take the extrusion depth all the way to the end. If you look in the plan, you see that the extrusion depth goes all the way as I have extended it. Now I'm going to turn off the cut shadow and the cast shadow. And then I'm going to click on the icon next to it, which is the deform. And then you're going to scroll down, change bend to shear. And then we are going to play with the horizontal and vertical angles to get our long shadow effect. So I'm going to move this, and I'm going to move this shadow. I'm going to now move this around so we get an effect like this. And I'm going to collapse this, and I'm going to go back into the top layer. And once you're in the top layer, it closes off the other window that you were in for the long shadow. So I'm going to take my text and I'm going to highlight. So you see the effect that the long shadow gives you. Now, if you don't like this effect, but you want a gradual long shadow effect, now this is what you do. You click on the extrusion layer, but you want to click on Control, and then you click on the little icon of your layer, and that will select the long shadow for you. Now you want to create a new layer. You want to bring that layer beneath your text layer. You want to turn off the long shadow effect. And now we can use our paint bucket and we can fill this in. I'm going to deselect. So if you want to create a gradient effect of your long shadow, you want to click on your shadow layer and you want to add a layer mask. And now we are going to pick our gradient, which is under the paint bucket. And then maybe you want your foreground and background black and white or whatever color you want. And you're going to just draw a line from the bottom to the top, which will give you that gradient effect. Now, even if you want to reduce the opacity, you can do that. So the effect is not so strong. So the next text effect I'm going to show you is how you can transform any text into an outline text. So I'm going to demonstrate by bringing in a background image. So I'm going to right click on this image and then open it in Photoshop. I'm going to turn this image into a black and white image. I'm going to go to image adjustment and I'm going to turn this into a black and white image. And I'm even going to add a little bit of a vignette on top of it. I'm going to make this radar, reverse it, and I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to click OK. So now we're going to type in the word piece, and I'm going to use red. So I'm going to pick my text tool. I'm going to type in the word piece, and I'm going to select. I'm going to set that here. And I'm going to double click to deselect. So I'm going to copy this text, and I'm going to make a copy. So I'm going to make a copy of this text, and I'm going to turn it off. And then with this text activates at the top text, you want to take the fill all the way to 0. And then you want to right click on your layer, go to blending options. You want to select strokes. And we are going to click on the stroke style. And we're going to change this to, let's say, a red. I'm going to do a deeper. Even if I do a white, it pops. I'm going to do a deeper red. And then click OK. So this is how you can quickly change any type of text into an outline text. So I can right click, go back to it, and I can even change size of my stroke to that. And if I want, I can even make a duplicate of this and right click, go to that one, and I can make that color white. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to close it. And I can even move this up like that. And I can make another duplicate and move that down right there. And if I click on the original that we started, so this is what we started with, and now you have 3 different tones. So we can actually take this and then take the fill all the way up. And if I do that, I can change the font color on this and make it white. Or I can even reduce the opacity. I can take that down. So I can have something like this. So this is another way that you can transform any font into an outline font and use it in a very creative way. So the next effect I want to share with you is reflection. So the next font style I want to show you is reflection. So the next font style I want to show you is the reflection font style. So I'm going to demonstrate that too. So I'm going to create a new layer, still keeping with the same canvas size. So I'm going to pick my text tool. I'm going to change the color to red. And I'm going to type in the word love. I'm going to scale it like that. I'm going to double click to deselect. Now, I think I'm going to change the background color. I'm going to make that black. And I'm going to click on my layer, create a duplicate. I'm going to go to edit, transform, and I'm going to click on flip vertical. And now with my move tool, I'm going to move this text below. And then I'm going to also take the opacity down. I'm going to take down the opacity a little bit more, something like that. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a layer mask to this text. And I'm going to create a gradient effect that will make the text below have this gradual fading effect. So I'm going to, with my foreground and background as white, I'm going to change my gradient tool, but I want to make sure that I have chosen the right gradient. And I'm choosing the gradient that is the black and it fades into transparent. I'm going to click OK. You're just going to draw a straight line and you can keep adding a little bit more till you get the effect that you want. So this is how you basically achieve the reflection text effect. So you can even take it a notch up by adding almost like a beam of light next to your text. So to demonstrate how you can add a beam of light, I'm going to go to my folder and I'm going to bring this image I'm going to drag this image and drop it into our working file. And I'm going to move it somewhere here. And now all you need to do is change the blend mode to screen. And once you change it to screen, you see that everything else disappears around it and you have this light effect that you can move. You can set it wherever you want. So, and you can even scale it. So I can scale it and move it and set it somewhere here. I'm actually going to move this down so it acts as if it's in between. So you can do something like this using all of these different techniques that I've shown you. So the next tip that I want to share with you is how you can just stack your text to create a nice effect in your design. So I'm going to create another new canvas. I'm going to paint that in with white. And now I'm going to type in the word reaction. So I'm going to do the first part, and I'm going to change this color to a red. And I'm going to rescale it a little like that. And then I'm going to type in the other. Then I'm going to scale it. I'm going to put it somewhere like that. And then I'm going to highlight. I'm going to make that black. I'm going to move that a little bit closer like this. And then I'm going to use the same font. I'm going to create a duplicate. I'm going to move that down. And then I'm going to continue adding the word reaction. So I'm going to move this and I'm going to set this right there like that. I'm going to leave a space in between, and I'm going to I'm going to make another duplicate, and then I'm going to finish off the word reaction, and I'm going to set that right there like that. And then I'm going to move this text, these two. I'm going to select this text and that text, and I'm going to move it up. And then I'm going to select all four. I'm going to just rescale it, set it like this, select the O, and I can make that also a different color. So you can leave it like that, or you can also add a little bit more interest. I'm selecting the marquee tool, and I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to paint that in with red. And I'm going to zoom out and then Control I to deselect. I'm going to select everything, and then with my move tool, I'm going to rescale it, and I'm going to move it down just a little. I'm going to double click to deselect. I can right click on my text, the top text, and then I can even add a drop shadow. So if I add a drop shadow, you see that it begins to change this. I can increase it just a little bit more, and I can add another drop shadow effect to ION and basically do the same thing. See that it gives it a different look. So off the bat, this begins to have some interest. I can also change the color. I can make it a little bit more grayish. You see that off the bat, you begin to get a whole different effect as you stack your text. So I can use my crop tool and I can rescale this. And it reads reaction. So if you want to take it a notch up, what you can do is that you can add a texture to it. So I'm going to bring in a texture. I'm going to drag it in, and I'm going to release it on top. I'm going to rescale so it fills up my canvas, and I'm going to double click to deselect, and then I'm going to go to image. I'm going to reverse this, and then I can take the opacity even down if I want. This is a very cool art, and it's just simple words that you stack together, and then with a little bit of effect, you achieve this. So the next effect that I want to show you is how to create a gold text effect. So I'm going to create another new layer. I'm going to fill this in with white. So to create a gold text effect, I'm going to first of all just click to select my text. I'm going to highlight and change the color. I'm going to type in the word gold. And I'm going to set it in the middle. And double click, deselect. I'm going to highlight this. And I'm going to choose a different font style. And now you want to click on your layer, go to the blending options, and you want to click on bevel. Once you click on bevel, you want to make sure that you have your inner beveled. If you do outer bevel, this is what you get. But you want to make sure you have your inner bevel. Your depth, you can play with the depth that you want, but I prefer to leave it around 272, or you can make it 300. And then you want to make sure that it says up. Depending on what texture you want, you can either do up or you can do down. Both works. And then you can play around with your size and get whatever effects that you want. And notice that as you increase your size, you begin to see a different effect on your text. You can soften it a little bit so you get a very nice effect. So the next thing that we want to add under styles is the inner shadow. And if you click on that, you want to make sure your blend mode is on normal. And the distance, you can move it a little bit to 8. And also the stroke. The stroke really doesn't matter. You can keep it wherever you want, as well as the size. I'm going to play around with the contour, so you can choose whichever contour you want. It's all preference based. And now the next thing is to add a color overlay. So I'm going to double click on this and I'm going to change my gold. I like that gold effect. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to add a drop shadow. I'm going to double click. And then I'm just going to play with the drop shadow effect just a little. So we have something like that. And then I'm going to click OK. So to be able to see this effect well, we're going to change the background color to black. And there we have it. So even with this, if you want to add a drop shadow, if you want to have a reflection effect, it's very simple. So you click on your layer, you create a duplicate, and then you go to edit transform. You want to flip vertical, and then with your move, we're going to move this down. And then I'm going to decrease the opacity. I'm going to take the opacity down like that. I'm going to add a layer mask. So with my background as black, I'm going to choose my gradient and make sure you have your gradient from color to transparent. And then you basically draw a straight line this way, and we can do it a little bit more so we get the effect that we want. So this is basically how you achieve your gold text effect. So the next effect is how to create a gradient text effect. So again, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to paint this in with white, and I'm going to just type in the word gradient. I'm going to move it in the middle. I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to change the font style, and I'm going to rescale. I'm going to set it in the middle. Double click, and then you basically right click, go to blending options, and then you click on gradient overlay. So this gives you a two-tone. Now, if you want a different color, all you want to do is double click on this, click on the gradient, and then you can play with whatever color option you want. So I'm just giving you different options that are available that you can use. If you want this effect, you can do that. Any effect you want, you can basically create that. You can do a two-tone, you can do a three-tone. If I want a three-tone, I can choose from this, or I can create my own. I'm just going through so you can see all the different options that are available to you. So let's say I want to create another gradient color in the middle, but maybe I don't see that in the default. I can hold down my Alt and then create another stop in the middle, can double click on that, and then I can change the color to, let's say, black, or any color I want. And it gives me another option. I can repeat that a couple of times and change it so I can get whatever color effect I want. Or I can just change everything. So this is basically how you achieve, and you can also change this to, let's say, radar or reflection, so you can get a different effect. I can also move the direction of my angle to create a different effect. You can reverse the color as well, and then we can click OK. So as you can see, there are so many different options. You can even right click, and as you create your gradient, you can even add a drop shadow. So you have a very nice effect that is generated for you. So just with a gradient effect and adding a little bit of shadow, you get something totally different that you can also introduce in your design. So moving along, I want to show you another effect, which is called the stroke effect. So I'm going to create another canvas. I'm going to fill this in, and then I'm going to type in the word stroke. I want to make sure it's visible. I'm going to type in the word stroke, and I'm going to rescale, put it in the center. So I'm going to change my color to white, and I'm going to change the foreground color to black. So I'm going to change my color to white, and then I'm going to change my foreground color to black. And now to create the stroke effect, you want to right click, go to your blending options, and you want to add a stroke effect. So I'm going to double click in this, and I'm going to create a black stroke effect. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to increase. And you want to make sure that it says position is outer glow, and you can choose whatever stroke thickness you want. And I'm going to click OK. So to make it easier to see, I'm going to change this color. I'm going to do something like a deeper, or like this color. And I'm going to paint that in for our background. Okay, so now you can see the first stroke. So we are going to create a duplicate. And then I'm going to create another duplicate. So I'm going to right click, and then go to blending options, and I'm going to change the color of this. I'm going to do something like a red. I'm going to click OK and OK, and then I'm going to move that out a little like that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the lower text, right click, go to blending options, and I'm going to increase the stroke size for that one. I'm going to take it up just a little bit more, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to also move that down so we get another stroke effect. So the second one, I'm going to move out just a little, and then the first one, I'm going to shift out a little bit more. I'm going to bring it down. So we do have this effect. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to select all of this, 3 layers, and put it into a folder. And then we want to add another stroke effect on this. I'm going to click stroke, and then if we want, we can take down the thickness a little. If you even want, you can change this to white. So you see that it's giving us a different effect on this as well. And I think I like this better. I'm going to click OK and then click OK. So you do see that there's a very nice effect that is going on. So now we can change our background color back to black. And then I want to do something. I'm going to go back into my stroke effect. I'm going to click on the top layer. And then I'm going to right click, go to blending options, and I want to add a gradient effect. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to just play around with this. I'm going to decrease the size a little. I'm even going to add an inner shadow, and then I'm going to play with that. So you can see that the text is now beginning to change, and we have a very cool effect that is being generated. So this is very retro. So if you're trying to create a retro text effect for somebody, this is the approach you want to use. So I can click OK if I'm satisfied, and there you have it. This is the stroke effect. So the last thing I'm going to show you is the glitch text effect. So just as the name is, the font style or the technique will make the word look as though it's glitching. So I'm going to create a new canvas, and I'm going to fill this in with white, and we're going to type in the word glitch. I'm going to change, we're going to change the foreground color. Let's make this black. And I'm going to put in my text. We're going to type in the word glitch. And I'm going to rescale this, something like that. Going to double click to deselect. And now we're going to do a few things to make this text glitch. So I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to click on this layer, and we are going to create 2 duplicates. And I'm going to click on the first one, go to blending options, and the blending options, you want to change your channel. You want to uncheck your R. You want to uncheck your red channel, and I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to slide that. So once you take off your red channel, you only get the green. And I'm going to do the same thing with the next layer. And this time we're going to turn off the green layer. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to shift that to the right-hand side. So just by this, the text has already started glitching. And this is a very cool effect. So you can even do this gesture alone to give your design, to take your design a notch up. But even to make it more dramatic, you want to go to the next step, which is I'm going to select all three and I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert to smart object. So once you create a smart object out of this, you want to take your rectangular marquee tool and you want to make sure you're on the right layer. I'm just going to draw linear lines and I'm going to use my move tool and I'm just going to slightly shift these selections. I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect and I'm going to repeat the same concept over and over again. So I make my selection, I use my move tool, and then I deselect, and then I go back to my marquee tool and repeat the same thing. I'm going to move this up, and then with my move tool, I'm going to move this out again, even more. Control D to deselect. I'm going to do it here again, and you can make big chunks, smaller chunks, till you are satisfied with whatever effect you've achieved. So as you can see, or you can even do just the top portion to give you a very cool effect. I'm going to repeat that here. I'm going to use my move and we're going to go in the other direction. Control D. So this is basically, you're just repeating the same thing over and over again until you get what you desire. And so I'm just going to fast forward to get to the end so you can see the effect that this is generated. So this is basically how you create the glitch text effect. So if you want it to be more dramatic, you can take your time to make smaller selections so that you really get the effect that you want. I hope you found this tutorial very fun and interesting. Please do like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell for all future uploads. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.